Yeah, but I don't have my cell phone. I don't know where he is. Come on, Jimbo, where are you? Welcome to the AutoSportRadio.com 2019 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway at 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. If you're coming in for the Brickyard, be sure and make a stop at the McGilvery's. It's only about 10 minutes straight west of the Speedway. Great place to be, good food, good service, and the adult beverages are ice cold. Couple little things to mention that I just messed up on. Tomorrow is going to be a day in history. It's going to be a very special day around our area. My little Lovey Pie is going to have a birthday tomorrow, and two of her two of her five daughters are coming down, and a granddaughter. The third daughter was going to fly up from Florida, but she had a minor medical problem. She can't make it. Nothing serious particularly, but anyway, it's her birthday tomorrow. I'm gonna hear about this for the next month. Oh no. Happy birthday, Ted, you're fired. Happy birthday. All right. Happy birthday to you. How did everybody like the Texas race? Yeah. That was a good race. Did you like the winner? Yep. A little bit. How many would rather have seen Alexander Rossi win? I think he's got a hell of a shot to win the championship, personally. Next week, I've been asked, do you know who your guests are? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And when I did mention my guests that will be here tonight, they said, I didn't hear it. Well, you got to listen. I'm working on getting a top 10 finisher in the 500 and a top 11 finisher in the past Texas race. Hopefully that will work out. I was told it should, so we'll see, as always. Couple of things. If you, everybody, the biggest medical visit you love is a dentist. Everybody can, oh, goody, I get to go to the dentist. Well, I can make it so you will do that, believe it or not. Dr. Jack Miller, 500 veteran, and his wife, Dr. Liz Lewis, have a phenomenal practice. Phenomenal. And if you think I'm kidding, call and make an appointment. You'll see what I'm talking about. Their number for an appointment is 317-846-6125. And if anybody in here is like me and has a lot of computer problems, I highly recommend Jack down at the Computer Overdrive. They're on the northeast corner of Lyndhurst and Crawfordsville. Go in there and give him a call. Tell Jack your problem. He'll take care of it. I guarantee he can fix anything. His number is 317-328-0766. And for those who like vintage Indy cars, anybody here like vintage Indy cars? Well, the roar of yesteryear is back. The Vintage Indy Registry presents the Legends at the Milwaukee Mile. Vintage Indy cars at the Mile this coming weekend, the 15th and 16th, in companion with the ARCA Midwest Tour Father's Day 75. Be a full-fledged field of legendary cars that ran in the 500, and they're open each day. They will be on the track for both days. And the paddock will be open. You'll be more than welcome to look at the cars, talk to the drivers, do whatever you want to do. Tickets are available at trackenterprises.com. Adults are $25, kids 5 to 12 are just $5. The Vintage Indy Register is dedicated to the history and preservation of all things Indy. So, And we'll be talking to the co-founder of that here shortly. Teams are back in their shops again. If you'd like to take a tour, all you need to do is call Bill and Stephanie Throckmorton, and you can make it happen. You give Bill a call. I've got the office number is 317-820-3595, or Bill's cell phone, and he loves it late at night. The later the better. He loves it. His number is 317-371-0290. You get to go through 2 or 3 shops, plus the Grand King shop. It's a great thing, and you ride in a limousine. Not some Volkswagen putt-putt. This is a full race limousine. And if you're a vintage, I know that it's kind of high. That's the problem. Turn that microphone away a little bit. There you go. And if you're a vintage buff, don't forget the SVRA has the new magazine is called Speed Tour. It's a great magazine, really first class. Go to svra.com and subscribe. Trust me when I tell you, you will love it. It's really, really good. So check that out. And the next SVRA event is upcoming, the 2019 Vintage Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio, June 20th to the 23rd. So anywhere around here and you want to get to see some great cars, you'll enjoy it. Get over there and check it out. Now, my first guest. Oh, I got to mention tonight's program is presented as always by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, and the SVRA. My first guest is a gentleman that I have become very impressed with. I read, and I can still read, and I think he does a phenomenal job. He is what is called the IndyCar Insider. And I like reading what he writes. I like the way he writes it. And he gets the information because everybody respects what he does. When you tell him something, he writes it. He doesn't make it up. He says what they say. And I've enjoyed reading everything. And he was available tonight and stopped by. So I want to introduce, if you haven't met him before, you haven't read him, do it. He writes for the Indy Star. Please welcome Mr. Jim Aiello.
Thank you. I'm really sorry I was late. I'm embarrassed. I apologize.
Why? I was late once.
I felt good though. Felt like Alexander Rossi. Sorry, I missed the joke there for a sec. But yeah,
So how you doing?
I'm good. I feel like I said. I felt like Alexander Rossi coming down the highway here to make sure I was on time. So.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
Did you get a ticket? I won't pay it. No. Okay.
No. Oh, I thought that's not an expense.
No.
Okay.
Okay. What's your professional opinion of how the series is doing, where it's going? Where the drivers are going, the whole thing. You think they're on the right track?
You start with an easy question, huh? No, I mean, I think it's. I think the biggest thing so far has been the exclusive broadcast partnership with NBC. I think that's been a huge deal, just in terms of having a TV partner that is willing to promote the series all year round, promote the Indianapolis 500 at its biggest events and those kind of things. So, to me, that was kind of the big deal going into the off season, and the fact that they got that accomplished. I think if you watched NBC, if you watched the NFL playoffs, the hockey playoffs, the Kentucky Derby, any of that stuff, you saw NBC was promoting the Indianapolis 500 and IndyCar, which is a huge step in the right direction for a sport that I don't think, frankly, gets enough exposure. So that was a big step. I think the other thing that the sport needed necessarily was probably that third OEM we've been all talking about during the for the last couple of years, really, and it doesn't sound like there hasn't been any new news on that, so that's unfortunate. I mean, I think that would have been another thing that would have really added to the competition.
Are you sure there isn't? Maybe they're keeping it quiet until they say, guess what we got?
And it could be, and it honestly could be. Like I said, this is one of the best, I've said this before, it's the best kept secret in IndyCar right now, is because Jay Fry is working very hard to secure that third OEM and doesn't want anything to get out or scare anybody off. I mean, he's told me before, he's had verbal agreements with multiple OEMs only for kind of things to slip away at the last second, so I don't think he wants to say anything until it's all locked and loaded, but I'm hoping, there's still something in the pipeline for that. But it's, like I said, it's not a huge loss. But in order for this series to grow, to add more teams, to add more money, and again to add more exposure, and to take some of the heavy lifting away from Honda and Chevrolet, because they have to do so much of it, not just in terms of providing the engines, but in terms of promoting the sport, a third OEM it would be a huge step forward. So there's good and bad for sure right now.
Something of interest to me has come up. Several things. One is, and there was a big ruckus about it, 25 guaranteed spots in the 500. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be 25. It would just be the guaranteed leader circle entries.
Well, roughly 25.
Yeah, roughly 25. I'm of two minds on it. I honestly like I said, I respect the tradition of everybody qualifies, and I appreciate that. And again, I think it's part of what provides so much value to the race. Like, I don't think the Indianapolis 500 is as prosperous of a race if there are guaranteed spots. However, there are financial realities that these teams have to deal with, and that Carlin Racing is going to have to deal with going forward. Is that, okay, they missed out on some prize money, and they get some leader circle money, but they're going to miss out on some prize money. How's that going to affect their budget going forward? How's that going to affect their team going forward? How's that going to affect Gallagher, the major sponsor that they had that didn't make the 500, didn't get the exposure of the race? What's going to happen to them going forward? So there are realities that I think people have to deal with, and there are ways to protect those teams that isn't guaranteed spots. You can promise more money, or you can promise more exposure. You can do things like that. But the conversation is interesting. But I think probably at the end of the day, I would come down on the side of not guaranteeing anything, just because it means.
The strange thing about it is the guys that are squawking are the same ones that squawked when Tony did it the first year. They were screaming, "Bloody guaranteed, can't be." Now they want it.
Well, yeah, it is. It's a funny coincidence, but I will have to say I do think it's different in this situation. They're not squawking for the same reasons they were squawking before, and I feel like this was, it's a a couple of these guys, like Michael Andretti, for instance, is a guy who makes his business in racing. So that's how he makes his money. So if I was personally invested in it, I'd be asking for it too. Why not? If you think you can get it, you can protect your own investment, I don't blame him. But is it for the good of the sport? Probably not. And I think that's why Mark Miles has been so guarded against doing something like this. He very much wants to protect the sport, to protect Indianapolis 500, and that would be not locking in spots.
When several of us came along, John Martin, myself, were antiques. The thing about the 500 was the 33 fastest cars.
Right.
Period. It didn't make any difference. And, of course, one of the most highly funded teams, strangely enough, didn't make it.
Right.
And they had buku dollars behind them, which tends to make you think. What I was told back in the 60s when I was working on cars with teams, I didn't work on cars. It was speed costs money, more speed costs more money. How fast you want to go?
Yeah.
Well, some of these guys, Mr. Penske has plenty of money. He should go fast. He blew it once, missed both cars, but that happens.
He's recovered nicely, I would say, the last couple of years.
He does all right. I asked if we needed to pass Hat. He said, no, I'm
No, he's
okay.
good? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I think, to me, that makes no sense. 33 fastest, put them in the race. That's what they had a decent crowd this year. I thought that the qualifying was good.
Yeah.
My only objection, I thought, was the last 6 cars should get 2 attempts, not just 1.
I think you might be happy with some of the changes next year.
I think that's probably going to be one of them. They had plenty of time to do it.
I think the weather ended up being kind of a weird issue on
A little bit.
But yeah, no, I think the idea was, and I talked to Jay right after those 6 cars had finished. After the Fast 9 shootout, I should say, and I said, "What did you think?" And he said, "I think he was pretty happy with it, pretty happy with the new format, but definitely wanted to explore the idea of saying, instead of giving these guys 1 attempt each, which is exciting, maybe give them an hour." And so that, and it'd be timed kind of like the way Saturday is, and that makes it fascinating to see how many times these guys can go out there, fix the car, do that kind of a thing. So I think they're going to explore that idea, and I think teams are interested in that idea because it gives them more than just the one shot.
How does everybody like that idea? Is that a good idea? How did you like the qualifying show to begin with? I thought it was quite good, actually. I enjoyed it.
And I think that was, in terms of, we talked about protecting the locked-in, the full-time entries. I think in that was kind of, you can do it in alternative ways. That's the way they were doing it, is that now you have 2 days to qualify. If you miss on day 1, if you miss on Saturday, you know what? Sunday you better come back and get it right. If you get it wrong again, well, now you're out. And that seems fair. So I think they're saying, if you're a full-time team, if you're Team Carlin, if you're Aero Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, which had cars on the bubble, okay, now it's time to get your acts together. Make sure you get it right on Sunday.
And if memory serves me, and my memory is getting a little touch and go, I think Hinch got more publicity missing the race last year than a lot of guys did that made it.
I agree, but then would you say the same about Max Chilton this year?
Who?
Would you say the same about Max Chilton this year?
My point is, a lot of people don't know who he is.
Well, I'm saying you can't. The argument I agree with you is that Hinch got a lot of exposure for himself in Aero missing last year,
right.
But did Max Chilton, also a full-time driver, get as much exposure?
No.
So there's arguments on both sides.
Well, there is, but then he's got to get out and talk to the world. Like Hinch will talk to anybody about anything. He doesn't care.
That's a very good point.
And you need to interview Max and write some stories about him, so those of us who don't know will know.
He is right now. Well, you saw the news on him, right? Is that he's no longer participating in oval events.
Right.
So yeah, I think he's going to be talking about that at Road America coming up here. I think he got away a little bit, went back to England, kind of did some time thinking, and is. I don't know. It was an interesting development. I talked to some of the guys in the paddock what they thought. They all thought it was a pretty, courageous move to say that. Because I think it's a hard thing to admit to yourself and to your team that you just don't think you want to do that anymore. And you know what? Driving somebody like Connor Daly maybe does put Carlin in a better spot on ovals. And I thought it was courageous of Max to kind of admit that. I mean, if that's not your cup of tea, then you say it and you let somebody else step in.
Yeah, and the fact that he's, I would assume, a little nervous about driving, that only could affect him, but it could affect others.
Correct.
Cause damage,
and to his credit, I mean, if this is the way he's felt about ovals, he hasn't caused any. If you look back, I don't think he's caused any major accidents during an oval race, or he's done anything stupid or anything like that. I think he just decided I have too much to risk in my family, and like I said, I haven't talked to him. I've talked to some people that know him and have talked to him, but from what I understand, it was a little too much to put on the line, and he made that decision, and I respect the fact that he made that decision, and that's. There are 32 other guys. There are a lot of other guys that are willing to take that spot and drive the car.
And I certainly hope one of them that gets the nod for the next oval will be Connor Daly.
He is. I talked to him today. He is hoping that will be the case, but no guarantees right now.
No. But they'll keep him on the fence for a little bit and then say, all right, bring your hat, let's go.
Exactly.
The other thing that's come up, and this one also, I made a comment. Somebody made something on Facebook, and like an idiot, I responded to it.
It's a dangerous
about
game.
running IndyCar and NASCAR as a doubleheader.
Yeah.
I think it stinks.
Why?
Because NASCAR's got enough problems. The IndyCar needs to build themselves. They don't need NASCAR to drag them down.
Well, you don't have to go. You don't have to go to the event. But okay, so don't you think? All right, people in here. People here.
He loves NASCAR, so.
If you put a neutral fan or even a NASCAR fan in front of an IndyCar and watch an IndyCar race, do you think you might be able to turn some of them? No.
Yes and no. I think a lot.
They're not going to.
I think a lot of people, when IndyCar raced down at Richmond.
Yeah.
I would tour around and talk to people, and they said, geez, these cars are fast.
Yeah.
They're faster than NASCAR. No kidding.
Well, I know, but that's what I'm saying. So if you have a doubleheader event with both of those series there, don't you think some NASCAR fans go, maybe this is a little bit better racing?
They can come anyway. They don't have to, just because NASCAR's there. They can come to IndyCar anyhow.
Well, NASCAR is what gets them in the door.
Oh, here we go. Fluffy's in it now. We're rolling. Fluffy's rolling.
I like the idea of putting IndyCar in front of more motorsports fans. As many as you can.
Yeah. I don't think so. And here comes the lead musician. Okay, here we go. A little known and overlooked fact is that had CART seen fit to run there with IndyCars prior to the 500, they would have been eligible for one of those 25 spots. Well, yeah, I suppose they would have, but the point was Tony wanted to reward the full-timers, I guess.
Well, he was starting his own league, so he was trying to get established that. That was the idea back then.
Who sent this up that woke me up?
Back here.
Oh, Glenn, the spotter. When next time you go to an oval, look in turn 3 or 4. You'll see a guy sitting in a chaise lounge. It's him.
That sounds like the way to do it.
And he's peeking over the
Get
wall.
An umbrella up there so you don't block the sun. Smart.
You're right, Bubba. You're right. What? By the way, just so happens that I have.
Oh no, I saw that. I was hoping you wouldn't bring it up.
I brought it out. That's why I did.
Okay. Well.
A yellow predicts outcome of 17 IndyCar races.
What am I at? 0 for 8?
About 0 for 8.
0 for 8. I've been close. Does that count?
Yeah, you've had a couple of them with Alexander Rossi.
Yeah.
He finished second, so that counts.
Yeah, as I'm saying, I think he thinks he's disappointed. I'm the one that's disappointed. That's, yeah.
Do you think
You try to yell at him after every race, going, "Come on, a little faster."
he doesn't miss? There's nothing that seems to scare him.
Oh no.
Nothing bothers him. You give him an opening, he's going to take it.
Only thing that bothers him is losing. And
Yeah.
losing to a Penske. I think he's getting quite sick of that at this point. This is the third time in 3 he lost to Pagano at the 500. He lost to Newgarden at Detroit. He lost to Newgarden again this last week at Texas. I think he's sick of finishing behind a Penske car right now, and I think he's going to try to change that next week at Road America.
Oh, I'm sure he will, and I think he'll have as good a chance as anybody in that one for sure.
Agreed.
So do you think...
Do I regret doing this? Yes.
I don't think so. What the heck? I mean, people make bets. By the way, speaking of that, I have been told by a real insider
Okay.
that betting on the 500 has been approved.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Nobody else seems to know it, but one hero.
Okay. Well, you could do it in internationally. You can bet on like an overseas website.
Well, you can bet on Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's true. You could do that there too. But I think it's definitely coming to Indiana here soon, which I think would be a great thing for IndyCar at least, and for IMS. I mean, to have some people if you can turn it into kind of like a Kentucky Derby-esque event, that'd be great in terms of bringing more people and more interest.
Well, it seems to me they're drawing fairly well.
No, I mean, but I think the more exposure you can get, and if you can get people gambling on the series, that's a good thing. That means more people are paying attention, more eyes on it, better TV ratings, that kind of a thing. Not a gambling fan?
Well, we go to casinos on occasion, and I leave enough there to pay the valets that park the cars usually.
Good.
I haven't walked out with my britches falling down because they're so full of money. That's never happened.
I've never done that before either, unfortunately.
What have you found the most interesting since coming in and coming to work for Indy Star? What has surprised you about IndyCar and the drivers, teams, sponsors, crews that you never expected?
It's a very intricate web. I think that how connected everything is at the IndyCar level, just in terms of. So I was talking to Jack Harvey the other day. He drives for Meyer Shank Racing, and really, it was one of those things where he was trying to pretty much save his open wheel career, and ended up meeting a very generous family that introduced him that gave him some money to help fund his career, and then eventually introduced him to Jim Meyer, who is the CEO of SiriusXM. And now that ended up being his sponsor, and then he ended up bringing that sponsor along with AutoNation over to Andretti. To Michael Shank, and then now he's got a 10th season. He went from the Indy 500 and a couple other races to 6 races last year to 10 races this year, and now they're hoping to make it a 16 race season this year. And I don't think you appreciate these athletes, what they go through on the business side of things, and how connected all that is. I mean, these guys are out there. Like Connor Daly is another perfect example. Out there constantly trying to sell himself and sell the idea of how good he can be, and it's been a fascinating process to learn as to how this whole thing comes together financially.
But when I first started coming here, when Eldon and John were driving, they didn't have to go out and bring the money.
Right.
The team owners had money, or they had pals or whatever. I don't know what they did, but now I remember Al Jr. saying at the end of his career, he said, "I'm doing something I've never had to do, find money."
Yeah.
I've never had to.
And most guys do now. I mean, you're talking about a select few drivers who don't have to bring money right now. Penske drivers don't have to. A couple at Andretti. Scott Dixon is one. Felix Rosenquist, I think, is another. But most of the time, these guys got to find money. They got to bring something to the table in order to get that opportunity.
Do you know how Scott got here?
Scott Dixon?
Yeah.
A plane?
No, I think he was on a ship, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking he rode it, but he didn't. He got investors to fund him to come here.
Okay.
And he raised the money, got the ride, has been successful, and the people that invested in him are also very thankful.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
made it well worth their while. What surprised me, I've suggested that to a number of drivers. Why can't you do that? Oh, it doesn't work. I said, oh yeah, it does. If you approach it properly and have everything in line. But to my knowledge, nobody's done it.
Simon Pagano, I don't know if you remember. I wrote about this after he won the 500. This is the guy that took out a loan from his father in order to do this, and then paid it back. He also had, I think it was somewhere around 300 personal sponsors that were all giving a very, a small amount of money, but he would go drive to every one of them, say thank you, try to, just in order to fund his open wheel career, just to get like a ride or two with Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports. So it was, some of these guys have been through quite a lot just to get where they are.
Oh yeah, there's no question. Early on when Simon got here, he drove for Gilles DeFerrin in sports cars.
Yeah.
And Jill started an IndyCar team. And I said, he's got to put you in the car. How could he not? You won the championship driving with the guy. Well, he didn't. And then we were talking one day, and he said, I'm going to change my name. That'll help. I said, really? What are you going to change it to? I said, I'm going to change it to Simon Indy.
There you go.
I said, do you think you can win? He said, I know I can. I can compete in this series, and I can win. By golly, he was right.
Won a championship in an Indy 500 now, yes. And visited in the White House yesterday, so that was pretty big for him.
Yes, and he got Roger. He got to pose under the picture of George Washington, and Roger took his picture.
Yeah, I think he was pretty thrilled by that.
Yeah, because the caption was, Roger doesn't take pictures of anybody. Do you find that drivers are accessible?
Very much so.
When you want to... I noticed, by the way... how much did NBC pay you? Because you were on television quite a bit this Saturday.
Did you see me?
Oh, yeah.
I thought some drivers were getting in my way.
They were.
Hinchcliffe. Yeah. I keep telling James, I say, you're stealing my shot. He keeps sliding right in there, and people are asking him questions instead of me, so I don't know. No,
I saw you a number of times.
I got to wear my Twitter, my Twitter handle there, and
there you go.
That way I'm smart next time. But, no, they're very accessible. Actually, I was saying this week that, like in Detroit, it was pretty cool weather. Everything was nice outside. Everybody's hanging outside. You could talk to anybody. At Texas, it's like 100 degrees. People were hiding inside their trailers, inside the air-conditioned trailers. I was having a hard time finding people because most of the time you can just kind of walk around the paddock and talk to whoever you want. But when it was 95 degrees outside, it was a little bit harder. But no, most of the time, very accessible and easy. You text somebody and you can talk to whoever.
A number of years back, I used to get 6 tickets to every race. And I'd go to a restaurant or a motel and say, you going to go to the race? What race? It's just down the street. Oh, yeah, you give me a ticket? Yeah. So I got people to go. It was only 6, big deal. But it amazed me how you can have what I would consider a semi-major event in your town. And people go, who? What? Where?
Yeah,
and there was a day back, 7, 8, 9 years ago when Eddie Gossage put 90,000 people in that place. And he did it up against Jerry Jones in a preseason game one year, too. He said that SOB schedule, I'll get him, and he did. He got about 92,000 people in the seats.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not quite the same as it used to be on the attendance. They do okay, but Eddie's, it's trying to get more.
Didn't he just sign an extension, I think, or recently?
Yeah, last year. Before going into this year, they signed an extension,
5 years or something.
Yeah, they did a lot, so... Eddie's actually a guy who wants that NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader. He wants it at Texas.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
He wants anything.
Yeah, he likes to promote. Anything new and anything wild or crazy, that's got Eddie Gosh's name on it.
Before your time, and I've mentioned this before, there was, I forget what year it was, Danica and Dan Weldon had a little dispute, and she smacked him in the face with a rag. The next day, a big billboard on the interstate, round 2 is here.
Eddie's good at what he does.
Does anything you write get into the other members of the Gannett?
Sure, for sure. USA Today publishes...
your stuff?
Yes.
Do they?
Yeah.
You're becoming a celebrity.
No, I cover IndyCar for them nationally. They don't have a national IndyCar writer, so they take my writing and they'll put it in the paper sometimes. It's usually on their website. Most of the time, right after it publishes on Indy Star's website. So, no, that's a cool thing. And then, when I'm in Detroit, the Detroit Free Press will publish, Detroit-related races. And when I'm up in Milwaukee in a couple weeks here, or Elkhart Lake, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel will publish those stories as well. So, it's a nice little family we got.
Wow. And you took a ride to Nazareth.
I did.
I know. You and I had talked. You said, "Boy, I can't. That's a town I really want to see."
Yeah.
And you got there.
I did.
You interviewed some little guy. What's the heck's his name?
It's escaping me right now. Mario something?
Yeah, something like that. How was he to just wander around and talk to?
It's better than you can imagine. Honestly, it's just I can't put it into words. Mario Andretti is one of those guys that you can talk to for 6 hours, and he is as engaged as the only thing that at the end of it, I realized he hadn't had a drink of water the entire time, no drinks at all, and he was still talking, and I was just, I just had my recorder out listening to as much as I could. He is Yeah, the guy's got an incredible memory, better than mine, and fascinating stories. And he can, I mean, back to the 50s when he first got here as an immigrant to the two-seater rides he gives Lady Gaga or somebody like that. I mean, he really just, everything he talks about is fascinating. And so Nazareth was an interesting place to take him. It wasn't, it's the first place that he ever drove a race car, really.
Right.
And it's over. I mean, for the people that don't know, Nazareth Speedway now is it's just overgrown. There's graffiti everywhere. It's just pretty much shut down at this point. And it was hard to take him there. Honestly, he wasn't happy there. I mean, there's a lot of fond memories he has at Nazareth. He won there. His son won there. It's been some great things that happened there. But when I talked to him afterward, I said, Mario, I kind of felt like I had to drag you there a little bit. And he said, yeah, it's depressing. It's only a few miles away from his house, and to see it all the time as a reminder of that, it was hard for him. So it was an interesting, different side of Mario Andretti that I don't think a lot of people get to see. And I was honored to have talked to him about it and for him to be so truthful with me.
Well, I came up with a sponsor and got him in here one Tuesday night, and geez, you couldn't walk in this joint. And people, after he left, said, he told stories that we'd never heard before. And I've heard him before. I listened to him before. And he said, and he seemed to enjoy himself and was telling some stories. It was funny. Yeah. Of course. And did you get to tour his house?
I did.
Quite a nice little pad, isn't it?
It's incredible. I mean, the entrance to his house is just lined with his trophy cases on both sides. And, I mean, again, speaking of his memory, he could pick out the trophy and give you the whole backstory, who the engineer was, who his sponsors were, how he got in that car, who built the car. It was just, I couldn't... I'm stumbling over my words because it was just incredible to listen to him talk about it. You'd ask him, what's your favorite one of these, and just depending on where he was looking, because then he'd be like, oh, that's a really good story. Then there's my Formula One World Championship, and that was that time I won Daytona. I was like, oh my gosh.
And now 50 years later, he got the baby Borg.
Yeah, I actually haven't talked to him about that yet. Yeah. I'm excited to ask him because I think he's going to be pretty thrilled.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I know Andy Granatelli made him that giant statue when he won the 500. That's the same height as him, but I think he's being pretty happy about the baby boy. No, he said it's the same. I believe it's the same height and weight as Mario, and Andy was pretty much or wanted to make it just so he's got that in his house.
Did you see his car collection in the garage?
I saw a few of the cars. Yeah, I took him out when we drove to Nazareth in my rented Hyundai Elantra. Nothing against Hyundai Elantra, but he was, at the end we were walking around the house, and he's like, oh, I was going to take you out in the Lamborghini, but I figured, and I was like, what did you figure? What figured what?
What was the hesitation?
Stop me at any moment and we'll get in the Lamborghini and go. And we could do it now, but yeah. So I missed that opportunity, unfortunately, and he drove the Hyundai Elantra, which,
Really?
It felt beneath him a little bit. Again, no offense to Hyundai, but it just, it's a car for me, not for Mario Andretti.
Well, if you ever go there again, I suggest see what the biggest car that they've got on the rental lot.
Okay.
Something bigger than a Elantra.
He fits in it nicely.
Oh,
but yeah.
He fit in a Volkswagen.
Exactly. But yeah, he was pushing that thing a little bit. He asked if he could do a burnout, and I was like, Avis would be thrilled to hear that. I don't think they'd if I said Mario Andretti's who did that to your car, they'd be like, yeah, okay, we get that all the time. But yeah, but I was hoping he would, so I could at least try.
I worked for a team owner. One of the things he loved to do with rental cars, we'd be going down the interstate and he'd throw it in reverse. And a couple of times he turned them, had to have towed in. What happened? I don't know. Something happened. The thing.
I'm glad Mario didn't do that. Not that I don't trust him. He'd been fine.
I learned after the first time, whenever we go on, I wear diapers because.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
It was a little nerve-wracking. Well, what do you expect for the rest of the year? Who, in your mind right now, you think might take the trophy and $1 million check for a championship? There's several.
I'm 0 for 8 in my overall race picks, so whatever I say, don't bet on it. I'm going to go with Alexander Rossi. Well, he's been as consistent as Joseph Newgarden, honestly. I mean, he just hasn't gotten the wins. He's got one win, but he doesn't have the 3 that Joseph has, and Joseph's had, I don't want to take anything away from him, but some of the strategy calls that Tim Cindric has put him in position to win. I mean, honestly, I talked to Graham Rahal after this race at Texas, and he's like, I don't know where the bleep Joseph Newgarden came from. He goes like, he wasn't anywhere near us at that point, and Rossi said the same thing. But Tim Cindric had the perfect strategy call. They got him in the pits. He got new tires. He ran five quick laps with nobody in front of him in clean air, and there he was. So you can't bet. It's hard to bet against Joseph and Tim Cindric and Team Penske because they're so good at what they do. But I've met very few more determined people than Alexander Rossi in my life, and I think he wants this championship so badly that maybe to his own detriment. Maybe he'll push too hard one day, but right now he's driving so smart and so fast.
I don't think so. I don't think that's in his DNA to do.
I agree.
Silly.
So I'm picking him.
Yeah.
I think Simon will be around it. I think Joseph will be around it, and then Scott Dixon will, of course, figure out a way to put himself in the championship hunt because he always does. And then
but I think this last weekend when he got together with Herta, that hurt him big time. That's gonna hurt him.
He's in fourth place and like 80 points back.
Which is not insurmountable.
No, he can do it. He's done it before, but it's just one of those things where when you have guys like Rossi and Newgarden and Pagenaud ahead of you who don't make mistakes very often, it's going to be really hard to make up that ground.
You know what? I was just mentioning to Paul something that disturbs me, and I'm disturbed. And I forget what race it was that I heard it, but they were playing Cindric's radio communication with Newgarden. He kept saying, I forget where they were, but he said he's on a push to pass. Now that takes the strategy out of it.
Yeah,
I think.
I asked James Hinchcliffe about this yesterday.
Yeah.
So what he was saying was that he does like the idea of hiding it. He said, but the thing is, he said most drivers can tell anyway. Like if they would just have to look in their rearview mirror a little bit and he could see that the guy behind him was on their push to pass. So taking it away, like Tim knowing in the pits that it's happening, it's not necessarily the advantage that you'd think it would be, because Hinch said you could just look at his rearview mirror and see it happening anyway. So it's just a hard thing to kind of combat. Because I'm with you. I would love if the drivers in front didn't know somebody was using push to pass, because then we'd see a lot more.
Yeah, but see, what you're saying is what my point is. Look in the mirror.
Yeah.
You can do it yourself. Build your own strategy, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that's the ideal way to do it. I think they did this it wasn't that long ago. They actually had that. It wasn't, another driver's push to pass wasn't showing up on your screen. I don't know why they changed it. I'm going to have to ask some questions.
But they used to have it, on the television they'd show it. You could see it.
Well, like for fans, like if fans knew but the teams didn't, that'd be great.
Yeah.
It's like when you watch poker, you can see what they have, you can see what the guys are holding, but nobody else knows. I like that a lot.
But I think the part of the problem is they got NTT and they got so many gadgets and they can supply anything. They can probably tell you, we better have a pit stop. I think the driver's got to take a whiz. Nothing would surprise me.
Yeah.
All right, you got this weekend off. What are you covering? What are you writing about?
IndyCar. I'll stick with it.
I see. Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I figure I might as well keep going.
Well, that's what they hired you for. What the heck? Give them a break.
No, I got some stuff on Max Chilton coming up. Just like I said, I talked to some drivers about what they thought of him. Today I wrote something on Pagenaud's visit to the White House, which was just interesting to hear what he had to say about that. Got some stuff coming up on Jack Harvey. So all the things I've already mentioned, apparently.
I think Jack Harvey, if he can once get in and run the season, I think he'll do much better than people might be surprised.
I mean, I thought at the GP, him finishing third was just an incredible run. I mean, I thought outside of Simon's ridiculous sprint in the rain, which was incredible to watch, I thought was one of the highlights of May. I thought Harvey's third place finish there was also pretty great.
Absolutely. And of course, Simon says, I love to run in the rain, same as Sato. By the way, what was Sato? What did he do? Why did he come sailing in the pit? Was he speeding?
Yes.
Oh, excessively?
The only thing I can think of is that, because I didn't get a chance to talk to him after the race.
Nobody did. Television didn't talk. Nobody does.
So the only thing I can think of is that he just forgot where his pit box was. He thought it was maybe further up because he was coming in so fast and then didn't. I don't even think he hit the brakes, but he didn't lock them up. I think he got worried about. Remember Marcus Ericsson during the Indianapolis 500 was coming in real fast and then tried to slam on the brakes and ended up spinning out, and that ruined his race. I think Sato was trying to avoid that and ended up almost killing one of his own pit crew guys, and that was really scary. And that guy, thank God he's okay. But it's just so unfortunate because he was having such a good, consistent, mistake-free year. He was in championship contention, and now. I mean, he's still in it, but it's just going to take a lot more than if he had he had such a quick car at Texas. I really thought he was going to finish in the top 5 at least. And then he kind of threw it away. So I feel bad because Sato's he's a guy that's gotten progressively better every year. You can actually see the places where he's made progress. The guy just won at a road course at Barber. He's won at a super speedway, obviously, at Indianapolis. He's won at street courses, Long Beach. He's got all the tools. Just needs to kind of put it all together.
Yeah, and that's another guy. You don't want to give him an inch because he'll take it.
He'll take it.
Even if it means in the grass, he'll do it.
I know. It's fun to watch him. Guys like that, like Colton Herta too. Same thing. I mean, the guy was just he stole the show. I thought this weekend.
Yeah, smooth. Nothing rattles him.
I know. I mean, to be honest with you, I think Scott. I think it was Scott's. I think that Scott pushed him into the grass a little bit
That's
on
what
that.
I understand. We were here watching Beep Line. Fabulous band if you haven't heard them. And what's particularly good about Beep Line, they got a sound guy that's out of this world. The best. I'm going to start a band. I'm going to see if I can hire him. I'm sorry, Phil's here. I didn't realize that. But we couldn't hear the audio, but saw it, and it looked to me like Herta's car went up a little bit, but the reason was he got pushed down.
He got pushed down. Yeah.
And Scott, I guess, apologized to him and admitted he did. It was my fault.
Yeah, I think he said if I don't know, it's a weird situation. I think he said it. Hey, I haven't seen the replay yet, but if it was my fault, I'm sorry. So that was like one of those non-apology apologies.
Supposedly he went up and did.
Okay, good. Well, I mean, I hope it was. It looked to me, not Scott Dixon. You know, not quite as talented on the racetrack. I looked like it was Scott's fault, but I just, I don't. And Scott doesn't often make mistakes like that.
No.
So.
And he's the one who said it might have been your fault. I didn't say that, Scott.
Sorry, Scott.
Listen, I appreciate your time. I enjoy reading, and I trust everybody. You do read this man's writings, I hope. Do you? Yeah.
Just a few claps. Thank you.
I enjoy reading. I think you have brought something to the Star that maybe hasn't been there in the way you handle it. And I enjoy reading it, so. Thanks for being here. Thanks for what you're doing, and keep it up. And I'm going to hang on to this.
Please don't.
Sport.
You could burn it.
No. And I'm going to put one in red when you hit it, when you get the right one.
What did I have for next week?
I don't know. Where the hell are we?
Where's Road America on there?
Road America. Toronto.
No, it's before
Road America. The winner, Simon Pagino.
Oh, really?
That's what it says.
I'm sticking with it. I talked to Connor Daly today. I said, "Who's your pick?" He said, "Simon Pagino." So.
Sure, he's listening to you.
So Simon's screwed, is what I'm saying.
Thanks for what you do. Thanks for being here.
Thanks very much,
Jim Aiello. My next guest is working his way up. He's a little older now. He doesn't move as fast as I do. But I want to mention, if there's any golfers out there, there's a golf outing sponsored by VP Insurance and Speedway. It benefits the St. Baldrick's Foundation, St. Baldrick's Foundation, which is studying cancer for children. And Mike Pardee, who is the owner of VP Insurance, said he's gotten emails recently that they're making headway in finding a cure for childhood cancer. Now, the event is Wednesday, June the 19th, next week, and it's at the Woodwind Golf Club. If you have an interest, you give them a call. The number is 317-669-8550. It's a fun time. There's a lot of good raffle stuff up. You'll enjoy it, and it's for a good cause. It's really good. So if you like to play golf, get out there. Even if you don't like to play, you'll have fun with Mike, I can assure you. And if you need to see a good exhibit, you need to get over and see that lovely blonde sitting there at the Indiana Motor Speedway Museum and look at the Mario Andretti exhibit. It's quite good. You want to stop by. You need stitches. You need embroidery. Stitches 2 on Gasoline Alley can help you with anything. If you can drag it, pull it, ship it, send it, throw it, Fran can take care of it. Give her a call. Tell her what you need. She'll take care of you. Number is 317-271-3444. And if you need insurance for your home, your car, or your commercial property, call Mike at VP Insurance. He's located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. And his number is 317-248-0070. My next guest is a gentleman who has been up and down through, back and forth, in all sorts of four-wheel, open-wheel racing. And he worked his way from mechanic to crew chiefs, and then he had the bright idea, let's start a team. And they very cleverly named it PDM. Now, they say it stood for Poor Dumb Mechanics, but I have a feeling that's not really what it was. but they provided a way for drivers coming into the Indy Racing League when they started to get their license and get in. He's been around the sport a long time and certainly has his opinion. Please welcome Mr. Paul Diatlovich.
Good evening. And if Jim hasn't left yet, it's nice to have a writer in the Star. It's the first AutoSports writer that writes with the passion that Robin Miller had. That was nice to see.
What got you into motorsports? Why did you go there? You couldn't get a job at Burger King or McDonald's? Why did you go into racing?
It started early. It started young. I was attracted to cars. I was attracted to racing. When I went to high school, I started learning about cars. I was a grunt on a neighbor's car down the street that was running at that time a Top Fuel funny car, and got to stooge for him for a couple of seasons, and I just caught the bug.
How did it end up to where you went? You ended up at Indianapolis, but how did you progress once you left stooging to get into mechanic for Indy cars and sprint cars and all that kind of stuff?
Again, I went to school, went to college in automotive technology, graduated SUNY up in upstate New York, and came back and got a job as a Volkswagen mechanic, and befriended a guy at a bar, naturally. And he goes, yeah, so you like racing. A friend of mine has a car down at my shop, just tore the corners off it, needs some help putting it back together. If you want to get involved with racing, why don't you come down and lend a hand? So I went down there, looked at the car, and it was a SECA B sedan Toyota Celica vintage 1971ish. And I look at this bucket of crap, and I'm going, holy somebody really abused this thing. So I started taking the fenders off, seeing what was bent, seeing what was broken, started assessing the damage, and then I said, well, who's driving this thing? He says, well, you'll meet a person here pretty quick. So I worked on it for about 2 weeks, got the right front corner hung back on, getting ready, and all that was on the car were the initials for the driver. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, Janet Guthrie walks in the door, and it was her car.
Well.
So that's how I met her, and I ran 2 seasons with her in SCCA, and then she got her big break with Rollo Volstead, and I went back to school out in California, and I was 2 weeks from graduating college out there. And she calls me up and she says, hey, we're going to be running the spring race at Ontario. Why don't you come down, which was right down the street from where I live. Why don't you come down and help me? Well, I helped her, and she goes, we're going to need help at Indy. So 2 weeks before I graduated, I said, 1977 is the only year they're ever going to run the Indy 500, so I better do it.
Really?
Dumb.
Really? You thought that was the end of it, huh?
That was it. 1 year, and I was going to take part in it, and did the best I could, and it was a passion that came on very early. I never looked back. Took the ball and ran with it. Met some great people along the way. A lot of schmucks, but a lot of good people.
Now wait a minute. What category do I fit in? Never mind.
Yeah.
Don't answer.
I won't. But
What, as you worked your way up to crew chief, and what gave you the bright idea, and you took your pal who you were getting along with, I assume you still do. I mean, I didn't see you guys fighting in the parking lot. Yeah, him.
Yeah. It was 1996. The IRL was being formed. Tony had the idea, and rightfully so. In 1995, there were 35 cars vying for the 33 spots. He saw the handwriting on the wall. The next year, there was not going to be a full field, period. And he was trying to protect the Indy 500s. It forced his hand. He said, I'm going to pull the trigger on the IRL. So Chuck had made contact with Gary Peterson out in California. And Gary says, yeah, I'll get involved with racing. What the heck? So he said, I'll be the driver, I'll fund it and all that. And all of a sudden, when the bills started coming in, Gary got kind of cold feet on it. And like 2 weeks before the Disney race, he says, no, I'm not going to sign the contract. I'm not doing it. I'm bailing. And Jack Long calls us up and says, so your car ready? We have a problem. And he goes, okay, what do you need? I said, besides a car and an engine, nothing. And he goes, I'll get back with you. Well, he got a car from John Menard that was a show car that had been in a lobby of one of his stores, drops it off at the shop. We take it apart, we put it together, put a short track kit on it for the first time, and we go down to Orlando to run it, and we're standing in line, and brilliant Bob Cassidy is there saying, okay, who's your driver? Well, we have John Paul Jr. driving it. What's your car number? We have 18 on. Is that okay? Sure. What's the name of your team? We don't have a name of a team. We just want to race. Well, you need a name of a team. So we're standing there in line, and I talked to Chuck. I said, well, Peterson put the money to get us going. I'm Diatlovich, and you're Buckman, so PDB. And I said, well, wait a second. That sounds like a carcinage. And so Chuck goes, well, we'll do the M for PDM, and that's how it was. It was an acronym of Peterson, Diatlovich, and Buckman. There were many other ones besides poor dumb mechanics that we won't get into.
One of the things that always impressed me is you listen to you talk and you go, really? But walking out of your garage at Speedway would be Father Glenn.
Father Glenn O'Connor.
Did he ever give you the word?
Father Glenn was probably one of the best things that has ever happened in my life. He married my wife and myself many years ago in the Valvoline suite in Turn 2 of all places. But he meant so much to us and to anybody that ever met him. He was the most, he was the most generous, gifted person that always had a smile, always had a joke, always had something to say. In fact, when Stefano DePonte first came over from Dallara, he was introduced to us as being the liaison between Dallara and all of the American teams. So he comes into the shop. I said, well, I want to introduce you to all the PDM guys. So I'm introducing him to, Chuck, of course, knew him, but to Paul Murphy and to Norm and to all those guys. And I said, oh, and I know being from Italy, you're Catholic, so I'd like to introduce you to this gentleman here. He's a Catholic priest, Father Glenn O'Connor. This is Stefano DePonte. And Stefano goes, he's no priest. And I go, no, yeah, he's really a priest. He's no priest. So this bantering goes on for a couple of minutes, and away we go. So that Sunday, they had mass at the track. So I'm sitting down, and Stefano stands, and he sits right next to me, and we're talking a little bit. And out walks Father Glenn with the robe on and the cloak, and Stefano's mouth just drops. And after Mass, I asked him, I said, Stefano, why didn't you think he was a priest? He said, I heard him curse. I said, yeah, with this one you'll have that. So,
how did you end up being the mule cart to give all these young drivers coming into the series their tests? How did they pick you?
Well, the opportunities that were afforded us when we did that was Jack Long at that time was running the IRL, and he wanted to bring open wheel drivers into the series. I mean, that's what it was built upon initially. It was to give American drivers a chance to do that. So he would contact us, and we started running rookie tests for the league. And I know in your statement you said we ran through 40. Last count, the last driver we ran was 90-something drivers we ran through there. And with the money that we would charge the drivers and the league to do that, we could keep our doors open and maintain a professional race team and continue racing.
Pretty slick.
It worked, and we took advantage of it. We played our cards pretty close to our chest. We We didn't have a fancy motorhome. We didn't have a fancy, whatever, but we had good friends, and we usually had cold beer.
Now I find out that one. I didn't know that. I'd walk in and see Father Glenn standing there. I thought, well, this isn't a place for me.
It was holy water.
Oh. Now I find it out. You have stepped away, so to speak. Do you miss it? Do you think it's going in the right direction? I know I don't know how you can possibly watch a race on television. You're on Facebook every 65, 70 seconds.
Yeah, about that. I'd love to. I would have loved to have the opportunity to actually be either a pit reporter or something to that extent. However, I'm also the reason why there's a 7-second delay on the live broadcast from the Speedway. So,
and I think Paul Tracy might have a little bit to do with that as well on occasion.
Yeah, well, he followed though. I set the bar.
You set the bar up. It's kind of interesting how guys get into a sport and they get hooked in. Are you hooked on a sport, or are you happy to stay back and just watch it on the tube with your holy water and your feet up on the ottoman?
I absolutely love the sport. I miss it dearly. If an opportunity presented itself, yes, I would get back involved with it in a New York second, much to the chagrin of my wife. But no, I miss it. I follow it. I yell and scream at the TV at every botched call and every bad move and all that stuff. And if you follow my Facebook, you know that.
Oh yeah.
But it is the sport is the dynamic of it is ever changing. It's ever evolving. Some of the changes that have happened have been for the better. Some of the changes that I see. I think they should revisit. I was talking to you before about the pit stops and the closing of the pits, the pack up before the pits are open. I think really slows the race down. It's a 4 TV package only, so that they could keep track of who was coming in and who's going out. When you have 20-something cars coming in at the same time doing the same thing, well, the first people that come in are going to go out. In the days gone by when the track went yellow, some of the cars could actually take advantage of that. I told you the story in 1980. I was working with the Sugar Ripe team, Tom Sneevil. We started 33rd. We finished the day second because we could take advantage of the pit stops. We could improve our positions. We were sharp. We played that. We played a different strategy than everybody else did, and just couldn't beat the Yellow Submarine that day.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to bring a gentleman up to, speaking of old, not you, cars.
We're old. It's okay.
No, I'm old. You're way behind me. Way behind. I'm going to bring a gentleman up who was, I was told he was a gentleman. He said he was. And he is co-founder of an organization called the Vintage Indy Registry. Now, something concerned me when I read, what kind of a name is that? But we'll find out. He is a co-founder of the Vintage Indy Registry. They will be up at the Milwaukee Mile this weekend. And if you want to see vintage cars and the regional ARCA series, they'll be running on the fabulous Milwaukee Mile. All the way up from Atlanta because it was raining. He said, I'm going to come up here, and he brought the rain with him. We'll supposed to get it tomorrow.
Hopefully
Please.
I didn't bring the rain, but it's been raining down there.
I know. Please welcome
A lot.
Michael Ashmet.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Don. Pleasure to be back with you.
What got you to get involved in this organization? You're a retired man of leisure. You don't need to work. You buy cars and play with them. What made you put together an organization like that from Atlanta? And I think you're basically out of St. Louis, isn't it?
I'll tell the story again, and I'm probably going to bore a lot of people. They've heard it.
Only me.
You know that I was a Marine.
I'm sorry.
And you always say that. But I have a nephew that's on active duty in the Marine Corps. And right now he's deployed over in the Mideast. But 2 or 3 years ago, he was graduating from boot camp out in San Diego, and about 10 of us family members went out for his graduation. And somebody out in California heard I was coming out, and I got invited down to AAR to have lunch. And see Dan Gurney's private collection, and my wife and I went, and Philippe de L'Espinay was there. He's a vintage IndyCar owner, and one thing led to another, and he invited me to come back and help him in 2016 for Legends Day here for the 100th anniversary of the 500, and one thing led to another, and the next thing we know, I've started the Vintage Indy Registry.
How many members have you at this moment?
I think right now we've got about 180 hard card members out there.
And this weekend you will be available. If you get a ticket for the event, it's open, the paddock's open. Come and see, talk, shake hands, get autographs.
That's correct. Up at the Milwaukee Mile, one of the things we pride ourselves in is having a fan-friendly paddock, and we welcome the fans to come down, see the cars, talk to the owners, talk to the drivers, talk to the mechanics. A lot of people are former IndyCar mechanics, drivers and owners and whatnot, and that's going to be the case up at Milwaukee. And if you've got a ticket to the race up there on Sunday, that ticket is pit pass basically for the Vintage Indy paddock, not for ARCA, but for our paddock. And come on down and we'll treat you right.
Now, it just so happens, cleverly, I have a pass for this weekend's. This hard card will get you in, get you where you want to go. And I have one. If anybody is going.
It's actually good for Gateway too, so it's a membership card.
I hadn't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
If you get this, then in August when you go and see them perform at Gateway, this will get you in there as well. So you have to be nice to me. Well, you don't have to be.
Don has
Nobody
the
ever
keys.
is. Nobody ever is. So no, why haven't you gotten into vintage cars? I would think that would be something you could toy with and put cars, rebuild build cars.
Well, again, I don't have a place to do it. Once I gave up the shop, I kept a lot of the tooling for it, but I just really don't have the wherewithal to.
Well, you go down there. They got circus stuff in there. You can probably move that aside. Or carnival stuff or whatever it is.
I haven't driven down that driveway. I drove down that driveway once, I think, maybe 2 years ago.
I see.
Since I left.
It's a little messier than it used to be.
Yes, I've driven by there, and is the road still blocked around the? Yeah, that's.
Well, if you go down on the Western Drive, and there's several things you can see. A new Grand Kingship, and if you're lucky, after about 11:30, 12 o'clock, Fluffy might be there, and that's worth the trip right there.
There you go. Billy has invited me several times to go down. I just, one of these.
You're too busy.
Days, yeah, too busy. That's it.
So what are you doing these days? You were down in Texas to visit your son?
Down in Texas, visiting my son, having a great time. Just trying to make ends meet right now at home.
I see. Well,
go see
talk
Fluffy.
to Chuck.
Okay.
No, don't. Go see Chuck.
Chuck's gotten involved with vintage cars.
Do you know how much trouble that guy's got me into already?
Now, the funny thing, I had him on the program maybe 2 months ago. He said exactly the same thing about you.
I wasn't here to defend myself.
What was your favorite time in racing, particularly Indy cars, but even short tracks? What did you enjoy the most about, a race or an event or a series or something?
The people. Absolutely enjoyed the people. The racing. You put so much effort in and day out to get the cars ready, to get the facilities ready, to get everything in line logistically, mechanically, that all that stuff is done. But it's the people that make it happen. It's the people that you meet along the way that you do that. What do I miss the most? Yeah, I'd say probably the people. The racing itself, fantastic. That was our job. That's what we did. We did it as professionally as we could. Indy, there's no feeling in the world like on race morning, walking through that gate and just feeling the people that are in the stands. Miss that a lot. But again, who do you miss? The people.
Now, you had the opportunity and the privilege, I guess I would say, one of the greatest open wheel racers in the history of the sport. The only guy that probably that has and ever will win the 4 Crown Nationals over in Eldora, Jack Hewitt. You put him in the race.
Holy crap. Between Chuck and myself yelling at him, all race long. Neither of us had a voice. I'd never yelled at a driver so long, so constant. It was like on the lap. Never. By lap 10, it's like, Jack, we're just about ready to get a lap down. What are you doing? Oh, this girl in turn 2, she's waving at me every time I'm going by. It's like, Jack, get your head in the cockpit, son. What are you doing? Chuck is getting on the radio saying, Jack, the tires we took off, I haven't seen tires like that since Janet Guthrie drove here. What are you doing out there? And so, yeah, he was quite a handful to work with. Unmanageable, absolutely unmanageable.
Was it you that put Steve Kinzer in? Did he drive for you?
Kinzer drove for Jeff and Joe.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, all right. Who was some of the people? I mean, Tice Carlson drove for you.
Tice Carlson drove for us.
Some of the guys, the drivers that drove for you.
John Paul Jr. started.
How's he doing, by the way?
Actually, talk about a thrill. For those that don't know, John Paul's suffering from Huntington's disease, and it affects your nervous system. And one of the things that it does do is it impairs your ability to speak. His thought process is absolutely crystal clear, but to convey that, to communicate that is very difficult. And I'll be a son of a gun if maybe 2 weeks ago, I get a phone call and it was John Paul. And it was just so great to hear from him. He sounded better. He's doing a pilot program at UCLA. They have him on a new medication, and he can talk for about half hour, 45 minutes now, where it's crystal clear. And from there, he starts slurring his words. I said, John, I've taken up enough of your time. Thanks so much for the call. But he says he's doing great. He feels great. He thanks all his fans, and his friends back here. So thank you for the opportunity. John says hi. So,
Mike, did you ever drive? I mean, other than back and forth to the racetrack.
Well, I drove back and forth to the racetrack, but yeah, I did drive. I raced go-karts from 1966, 67 up until 2001 when I was well into my 50s. And the last year I raced, the last race I raced was the famous Quincy Park race, and I ran that, I don't know how many years, but I ran it the inaugural year of 1970 and then almost straight through to 2001. But that's the only racing I did. Got to warm up some modifieds and stuff like that, but no racing of cars.
For whom did you toil with tools, wrenching on cars?
Well, really it goes back to being a kid growing up over near Springfield, Illinois, and my uncle raced super modifieds and sprint cars and built super modifieds and built a lot of great cars for Jerry Blundy. So I started out as a kid there, and then we had a neighbor that had a modified late model Ed Reinhardt, and he had this car 7X, and it was a local track champion in 1970, and that led me to Indianapolis, and then George Bignotti, Vels Parnelli Jones, and Patrick Racing and whatnot.
What's the neatest thing that's happened to you in being involved in racing?
Oh gosh, I don't know. A lot of great things. Probably getting hired by George Bignotti down on 15th Street in the Vels Parnelli Jones shop when they had the Johnny Lightning car. That was probably the highest point of my life right there as far as racing goes. I mean, that was really an honor.
Strange thing, I was talking to a guy who rebuilds engines. He said, I said, what are you working on? I said, we got a Bignotti engine in here. I said, oh really? Where the hell did that come from?
I know the story.
Yeah, and he said, I think I know why you won so much.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Pretty creative man.
Yes. What do you have, 500 wins?
500 wins, let's see, 64, 66, 64 with Foyt and 61 with Foyt, and then Graham Hill 66, 70, 71 with Al Unser, and then Gordy Johncock in 73, and then Sneva. So, yeah, 7 wins.
Sure. Donald Davidson wouldn't have known that.
Working for George, you kind of remembered that kind of stuff, so anyway.
I got a question from the peanut gallery, Paul. Who was your favorite rookie you worked with and why?
That's tough. That's mean. Whoever said that, that's mean. Because we've had the privilege of working with some fantastic people and some fantastic rookies. But when it gets right down to it, Sam Hornish Jr., I mean, put him in the car and put him in the car. He was so laid back. This kid would be working on the car at the Speedway. This is the first time the kid's been to the Speedway, and he's put him in the car and, yellow for track inspection. So we're down for 10, 15 minutes. So we smoke the car over, have him up on jacks, and, he sits there and you look at him, he's sound asleep. He's like, what the hell's this? So let the car down, and then Murphy, who's the chief, he'd have to kick the front tire a couple of times to wake his ass up, and it's like, are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. And then he'd go out, and from the time he'd leave the pits to the time he came in, it was flat stick. I'd like to say great feedback, but the guy actually didn't have any feedback. He just, whatever you put on the car, if it went faster, you saw it on the stopwatch. But just a good kid. I mean, genuine, good kid, appreciative of everything that you did to the car. His family was first rate. So I'd say Sam.
And you had a guy who was a real monster, very tall, muscular, Jimmy Kite.
But he wasn't a rookie.
No, I know
But
that.
he wasn't a rookie. Yeah, Jimmy Kite was probably the most pleasurable experience I had at the Speedway. What Chuck and I put him through the season that he ran for us, we went into the season with absolutely the worst driver that's ever come through the gates. In fact, calling him a driver is pushing it. He wasn't. Scott Mayer. And I'm sorry, I get a little bit of regurgitation when I say that, and the thoughts of that. He was, he redefined bad. The barometer was that guy. But so he couldn't pass his rookie test. So now we're sitting at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We have a brand new car. We have 2 brand new motors sitting on the thing. We don't have a nickel to run it. We don't have a driver to drive it. We don't really know what we're going to do. What are we going to do? Well, the entry's paid for. The tires are mounted. Hey, Jimmy, what are you doing? Let's fit you to the car. This kid got in the car and we sent him out and said, now look, I can't guarantee, or we can't guarantee you the ride because we need the money to operate. We just need the money to operate, so we're going to have to find a driver with, the sponsorship. But we have to put the car on the racetrack to show everybody that the car's capable of making a race. Yeah, I'll do that for you. So we'd give him 10 laps a day. That's it, just 10 laps a day. He'd go out, drive flat stick for 10 laps, bring it in. He'd be gone for the rest of the day, and we'd be interviewing drivers left and right, and they'd be coming in with all sorts of funds and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, Chuck and I sat down, we looked at each other, we said, look, we know we can get $100,000, I think, which was the biggest bid in there, and have an unknown. Or we can go with this guy, hope for the best, and see what we can do with it. And we stuck with Jimmy Kite. We fired the rest of the drivers, and we went out and we were first in class. That was the year they had the horrible Gen 3 Chevy that just, you looked at it wrong and the thing would blow up on you. And we went out there and there were, 12 other Chevys, Chuck maybe, and we beat all of them. So it was good and very, very good to work with. And as far as talent goes, I don't care about Milwaukee or some of the other racetracks that we run at, Chicago at that time, or Kansas City at the Speedway. That's what you look for. You look for a driver that can gas it at the Speedway. And Jimmy Kite was probably one of the most talented guys I've ever had the privilege of running there. He really was.
I was employed at Scandi Assignment at the time, and he had just won the Copper Classic. And Andy says, we're going to go test, come along. And before he walked out the door, I said, don't let this guy sign you. You'll be sorry. Oh, okay, yeah. I said, don't, I'm telling you now. So he comes back, I signed a 5-year contract. He got about $11 out of that, and it lasted, 2 years at the most? Oh, yeah. But then you put him in a car and he showed what he could do. And he
Well, when he drove for Andy Evans, he was always fast, blindingly fast, into the fence at that track, into the corner at that track. He ricocheted that. But again, and the way he talked to us is his engineer would stick his head in before every qualifying saying, look, our sponsorship's on the line. We got to put this thing on the pole. I don't care what it takes. Don't lift. That's what you want to tell a 21-year-old kid with kahunas. And he didn't. I mean, I think the crash at Texas that he hit the fence going into turn 3, and the car didn't stop till he exited turn 1. And man, they're still picking up crap from that one.
Mike, did you have to, in your career as a mechanic working for George, you have to put cars back together? His drivers never wrecked, did they?
Actually, at Vels Parnelli Jones, we had very few cars crashed. I'm trying to think right now. Joe Leonard crashed his car at the season-ending race at Phoenix in '72 and wasn't able to start. Other than that, Wally crashed up at Michigan one year, and the Eagle had to go back out to AAR to get repaired. And Gordy, I can't ever remember when Gordy was there, when I was there with George, him crashing a car, honestly. I mean, very, very minimal.
Now, your organization, the Vintage Indy Registry, what do you provide for your membership? I mean, what do you do? If I join and I've got a car, I'm going to go buy the car that Fluffy's got sitting in the shop.
Well, there's different levels of membership. I mean, as a car owner, it costs you $100. You can register 3 cars. So they go in the registry and they're put on our website, and we work with the owner to get all the history nailed down and photographs, both old and new, and then obviously they get a hard card. And for any on-track event we have, we don't charge an entry fee. That's our policy. So we feel that these people that own these cars are coming to put on a show, and they shouldn't have to pay to do that. And I've got promoters that agree with me on that, and so they get to run their car for free, and then we try to take really good care of them at the track. We try to give them a great paddock area and some meals and just different things. We paid tow money to some degree down at St. Louis last year to help people out, and anything we can do to get you there and get you going. And you can join as an associate member. You get a hard card, and that also is an all-access card to any event we do for the weekend. For instance, down at Gateway, that's all you need is our hard card. And if you're a member, if you're a crew member, the same thing, $50, and it's probably one of the best deals in motorsports.
Do you have sponsors that offset the costs?
Yeah, we do. We've worked really hard to get sponsors, and this is the 3rd year we've had Haggerty Motorsports Insurance, Vintage Motorsports Insurance. They've been really good to us. They're back on board this year as a presenting sponsor. We've got Speedway Motors out in Lincoln, Nebraska. Clay Smith and his brothers and that whole group out there, John McKeegan at the Museum of American Speed, they've been in tremendous support to us. And recently we signed the Hall of Fame collection, Darren Jack, who's one of the world's premier memorabilia dealers in parts and helmets and uniforms and whatnot. He's underwriting the awards dinner up at Milwaukee this weekend. So we've worked a lot of sponsors, and we've also got Cole Publishing out of Wisconsin, which is Bob Kindle and his group, and he has a magazine called Reincarnation. So, and a lot of other smaller sponsors. So, Bell Helmets, got to mention Bell. Bell's been really good to us. Bubba Burgers last year, yeah.
I was going to say, geez, big dinner. You take everybody down to White Castle, but now you got Bubba Burgers, so never mind.
Well, we had Bubba Burgers for lunch at Gateway. Up in Milwaukee, we've got Paulie's Pub and Eatery, which is across the street from the Mile, and they're catering lunch to us on Saturday, and then we're doing an awards banquet at the Sheridan Brookfield, and we're going to probably feed about 100 people Saturday night, prime ribs. So,
Bill, are you going to that? Hey, I got a card. I could go too.
Yeah, you could come. So we really try to take care of everybody.
There's 3, to me, as far as I know, there's 3 major vintage organizations: SVRA, Classic Times,
and ourselves.
And yourselves.
Right.
Do a lot of your members and theirs come and join you when they're?
Yeah, there's crossover. I mean, we have many members in our organization that they also belong to Tony's organization, and they run their Indy cars here at the Speedway with SVRA, and then we've also got members that participate with Gary Monshine in classic racing times. So we welcome that. There's a cross-pollination between all three groups, and between the three of us, we're offering, a multitude of opportunities.
That's something you should get into, Paul. I'm telling you.
I've seen Paul out at Dooman's shop looking at the old cars.
And probably telling them what they did wrong.
Well, he was looking at an M24 McLaren that day, and he was giving them chapter and verse on the history on the car, which I thought was pretty impressive, actually.
Well, it's a car I worked on back in the day. So, in fact, Dooman worked on it back in the day and forgot half of the.
Yeah. and it's a beautiful car.
Yes, it is.
Well, you could almost fill the Speedway field with the cars he's got in that place hanging on the wall.
Yeah, I think Rick Dooman's got, I don't know, probably 25 or more cars out there right now.
Quite impressive. It really is.
Yeah, I saw him over there one day. George was working, and Rick was dusting the cars that are hanging.
Yeah.
For some reason, Paul, I have to agree with you. I should have given this up a long time ago, but I got hooked at this place. I used to go to short track. I used to go down and watch Andy Granatelli when he ran the midgets down at Soldier Field.
Wow.
And I've been following him for years.
Wow.
But it's the people, and you're right, it's the people. I enjoy the people. Look at this. Here's a guy sitting very calmly. He's a 500 winning crew chief. He just comes and says hello. He usually tells me, don't talk to me, I'm done, I'm busy, don't talk to me.
You got Howdy Bell here, for Pete's sake.
Don't remind me, jeez Louise.
You got two 500 starters in the crowd tonight.
And speaking of Father Glenn, the first guy he started working for before he was a priest, Eldon Rasmussen.
Eldon's
here. And he too is a Hall of Famer. And I think very shortly his chauffeur is going to be in the Hall of Fame as well for getting him around up and down. She said she had to retire to take care of him because he gets lost. I said, I'm going to go over, we'll go for lunch. And she said, that's not a good idea. He'll forget how to get home. So might I might too. So, there's something about this sport, and I've said this 1,000 times, the quarterback, you hear about the quarterback. He's got 10 other guys around him. He gets knocked down, he gets up and goes on again. A race driver's got a crew, and if one of them drops the ball, he can be in trouble. And to me, I think it's the ultimate sport because everybody has to do their job, or this guy's in trouble. And of course, the driver gets all the credit, but the guys that are working until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, they're the ones that make it happen.
I don't know how many times people have asked you, well, you're in racing, it's so exciting, you go to all the faraway places, all these beautiful cities. It's like, yeah, we do. We see the inside of a hotel and the inside of a racetrack. When we leave the hotel, it's dark. When we get back, it's dark. And that's about all we see of the city is what we do. But that's not the point. The point is, we're there to do our job. Our job is to support the racing, the endeavor, and we've, it's been going on. The one great thing about racing is it's such a fluid circumstance because it's constantly changing. It's an ever-changing dynamic. The cars that and the tricks that were working 2 years ago are not working now, and the people remain the same. The faces change a lot. Walking through the garage area this year, I didn't recognize maybe 10% of the people that used to work there, and it's but again, that's the changing deal, is that you're not finding chief mechanics anymore. Now it's more the engineers and the engineering team that stays constant, and the mechanics are young, they burn them out and they replace them, and that goes on. But that's what it takes to win.
And I've noticed, as you have, when I walk through the garage, some of the guys that I recognized from 25, 30 years ago are walking a lot slower now. They're not as swift.
Big fat guys like us that do them too.
And I'm one of them. Yeah. I don't have to chase them anymore because they can't walk any faster than I can. So it works out. Mike, what are the dates? Obviously this weekend is in Milwaukee.
15th and 16th this weekend for Milwaukee. Then we're with IndyCar down at Gateway August 23rd and 24th.
Have you got any other events?
Not this year. We're looking at next year already, and I can't say who's approached us, but we're probably going to California, among other places.
Well, there's a lot of places you go in California.
This place is really nice.
Is that where all the teams want to go because it's Rudy Tooty and they can put on a
I don't know about that, but I think it'd be a really great deal if we get this, and it looks like we're probably going to go there next year, and also back there in 2021 maybe. So
as long as the racetrack stays there and they don't build a stadium.
Right.
Yeah. Since that celebrity thing it's perfect for you to be there. I think ideal.
Okay.
All right. I mean, that's only me speaking. Jim didn't say, talk to him, make him there.
I forgot to mention that we've got a 500 driver driving the pace car at Milwaukee this weekend.
Really? And who would that be?
John Martin, 5-time Indy 500 starter.
Now
He'll lap the field.
Yeah, he'll probably get carried away and lap the field. We've also got David Hobbs up there with us on Sunday in our paddock. He's going to sign autographs, sign his book, and whatnot.
and try and sell cars.
Probably.
Yeah.
He's not too far away with a Honda dealership. So.
Right. How clever. Now, one thing I got to tell you, a lot of people might say, John Martin, I remember, but I don't know what he looks like. He's got to wear the hat or they'd never know who the hell it
Right.
is.
That's become his trademark.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you, Paul, coming. As I told you when I wasn't kidding, I figured if I invited you, you'd tell me, yeah, you got to be kidding me. But here you are.
Anytime.
It's interesting. Would you like to listen to some more stories from this guy?
Yes.
I think the next time I got to find when Chuck comes up just to lollygag, get the two of you together and start telling stories.
That'd be a great show.
The only way that's going to happen is if the beer pitcher's sitting right here.
We're not on television or radio or anything. We're on the internet.
Small teams have the best stories.
Yeah, yeah. And never mind. I won't say that. I won't bother. But I have to agree with you. I thought probably one of the most interesting things that hit me when you were at the Speedway was Father Glenn. I thought, how in the hell did he get tied up with this organization? Great guy.
We needed all the saving we can get, and he brought it to us.
And people don't realize he worked on cars. When he started with Eldon, it was before he went to seminar. He worked on the cars. I don't know what he did. Put air in the tires. I don't know.
Okay, you asked for one more story. Father Glenn.
Yes.
I think he was ordained in 1980. Correct me if I'm wrong. In any case, we're at the Speedway. It's still the old garage area, so it's just the two wooden sheds going through there. Goodyears were the only tires that you had, and the Goodyear tire place was in between the pit out. As you were going from the garage area out, Goodyear was off to the right. So at the end of the day, the teams would bring their tires in on a tire dolly and stack them there, and it was first come, first serve. So it was the end of the day. The crowd was just incredible. And I have a set of tires for Volstead, and I'm running through the garage area, and I look over my shoulder, and there's another guy running through the garage area with another set of tires. And I said, well, I got to beat him there, otherwise he's going to get the tires in first. And as we're going back and forth, I finally make the last turn, and I'm just in front of Goodyear saying, good, I beat the son of a gun. And this guy puts his tires down right in front of me. And then the expletives come out. You dirty, rotten. And for about 5 minutes. And the more I'm yelling at this guy, the more he's smiling at me. And that really gets you mad because now he's, just going, and he's smiling. So I think the next race we're at Milwaukee, and I'm sitting on the pit fence, and Father Glenn goes walking by with a stack of tires. And I said, yeah, there's that asshole. And the guy looks at me and goes, Father Glenn? And that's when I realized, uh-oh, I'm going to hell.
Guy who was very much like him was Father Phil. Nothing much bothered him, and when he got mad, he could spout off a few on his own as well. Two great guys in the paddock, and neither one of them are here anymore, and that's a shame.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
They were fun to talk to, fun to be around, fun to joke with, and both of them could come up with some dandies. It's fun. thanks for your time, Paul. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you very much.
And you brought your wife with you. I don't know why. She's there's Susan over there. And Mike, I don't know. I might see you in Milwaukee this weekend
Hope
if I
to
can
see
get
you up there.
If I can get off. I've got to apply for it, which I haven't done yet.
Bring
But
your
after-
lovely bride, whose birthday you can celebrate her birthday up there.
I wish you hadn't have brought that up. She's mad at me about that now.
We're serving prime rib. I'll remind everyone.
Oh boy, there you go. And of course, you could have the thrill of watching John drive the pace car. And you'll see the Throckmorton gang. Fluffy will be there without that nice hat on.
They'll actually be up there with a brand new car that's being debuted, a brand new restoration. That's Bob Receiver's Riley and Scott. And it's in the number 3 Earnhardt livery from, what year was that? 1999. It's really a gorgeous car.
This guy over here took Buddy Lazier, I think it was in Phoenix, and they put out and run him, and the car wasn't worth a crap, and I think he wrecked it. I can't remember what exactly happened, but they had a Riley in the truck in pieces. I said, get rid of this junk, put the Riley together. It wasn't together. They put the whole thing here, put the engine in, went out, he won the race.
Yeah.
I think it's the only one that Riley ever won. It ever did worth a hoot.
Chuck Bucknam, who we've talked about tonight, and Billy Throckmorton put this car together and put an Aurora engine in it for Bob Receiver over the winter, late winter, and so we're really anxious to see that car run.
So is Bill.
Yeah.
Said it starts, now will it run?
Well, I'm sure it'll start, and I'm sure it'll run great.
All right. I want to thank you both for being here. Paul, you're in the area. I've got your number. I mean, your cell number, not your number. I don't have your number, but I have your cell number. So you may hear from me again. And Mike, all the best. Thanks for stopping by. If anybody
Thanks,
wants
Don.
a poster, remind you
There's
the dates and pass them out.
Some posters up here for Milwaukee and St. Louis. Please take one home with you.
And don't forget, you want to see the Mario Andretti exhibit, go over and see this pretty blonde over here and go through it. It's a good exhibit. You'll enjoy it. And if you like to play golf, on the 19th, the golf outing sponsored by VP Insurance that benefits St. Baldrige Foundation, which is making strides, they tell me, on childhood cancer. It's worthwhile if you like to play golf. Get your clubs out, Howdy. Get your clubs out. Play around. Thanks for being here. Thanks for these guys. Thanks for Jim for making it here. We'll be back next week. Go to AutoSportRadio.com. When I get things put together, you click on the Autosport show and you'll see who the guests are. I have two Facebook pages. One's the Don K Facebook page. The other one's AutoSportRadio.com Facebook page. The guests will be there. Until next week, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for Lisa being here. Until next week, good night.
Last time I checked up here.